Hey everybody, I'm Invisiblekatana, and today I wanted to talk about the combination of two things I love, video games and photography. Photography as a concept is simple, point and shoot, but as a practice it takes a lot more, and over the years as technology has changed, we've seen photography change along with it, eventually combining the virtual worlds of video games with both the concept and practice of photography. Now before I go any further, I want to preface the rest of this video by saying I'm not a professional photographer, I'm a nerd that does photography, and I'm not the worst out there. Now getting to the point of this video, photography in video games is real photography, at least to me. So of course you can argue in the comment section below, but that's just my personal opinion on it. I think it takes on a lot of different levels, ranging from just moving the camera into position to full-on photo modes. But in order to say why I think all of this really counts as photography, I have to talk about the arguments first. Plus, if I save it for the end, I'll just be annoyed during the end of the video where I'm just mad about all the dumb stuff that I researched. So, argument number one, plagiarism and copyright. Stealing someone else's work is obviously wrong, but to take things back to technology advancing, video games have become a different part of pop culture than when they started out, ever since it became possible to record games. We have Let's Plays now where you get not just an image, but possibly the whole game thrown online with someone talking over it, and sometimes it's just the game by itself. Now, while that argument rages on, especially at Nintendo, taking things down to a single image I think adds to the argument of creative individuality, as people see different things and can find a myriad of different pictures even from one pose, which actually leads to the next point against in-game photography, creating versus using. Although the name is a bit vague for this argument, I have a fairly detailed explanation based on what I've researched so far. This argument I would say is the biggest and stupidest against video game photography, as it kind of throws in two arguments together. It throws in the plagiarism and copyright of argument one with the ownership of video games, as well as the argument of work put in by real photographers. An article titled "It May Be Art, But In-Game Images Aren't Photography" by Wasim Ahmad talks a lot about the artistic merit of video game photography, but discredits it as actual photography, with the main argument being the use of an already created product that is designed to look a certain way. Ahmad gives an example of a real photograph he took and explains the work put into driving to the location and dealing with weather and the randomness of nature as he worked to get the picture, putting this as the final line of his article. If you're sitting on your couch and the PlayStation's doing all the work, call it what it is, art. And while I've seen quite a few people express the same argument in other comment sections of other articles, I would say this shows more of a dismissal of a new style than real evidence as to why a picture from a game doesn't count as photography, leading us to support for video game photography. Now, like I said, I think the argument that the game was made by other people is dismissal over evidence. I think this discredits not only the concept of photography, but the practice as well. And based on many people's arguments against in-game photography, they suffer from what I would say is the same thing most people do when the next step in any medium comes along: arguments in absolutes.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Saying you went somewhere to take a picture means literally nothing to photography. People go to their bathrooms all the time. Dealing with weather doesn't mean much either, and in fact, nothing matters outside of the actual picture, which is why when people say the game creators take all the work out of what real photography is, they ignore the fact that the world didn't just suddenly look that way because they went to a certain spot. It's been that way for decades, if not centuries, due to both natural and human involvement. And while there are still smaller arguments to be made within that conversation as you break things down to nature photography and architectural photography, as well as other genres, the absolutes are what prove to be the main detriment to the argument as a whole. People have also argued further that the legality of in-game photography is another factor that changes photography as a whole. But once again, the work behind the pictures don't matter. If it did, most photography would be degraded to who made what and who does it belong to. And while I understand the argument of fake versus real, the practical application of in-game photography goes beyond the concept of point and shoot if you're actually trying to make something special of it, even without photo modes to help you. And even if you're not trying to create something special, in the end, a photograph is a photograph, whether it's a real tree, a fake character, or something we only wish we could capture. Hopefully in the end, this video did something for you. Whether it was to show you the other side of the argument or introduce you to it, I want to know your thoughts on this subject in the comment section below. If you have questions about other elements or arguments about the subject, I probably already have a response that I did research on. I just didn't want to cram it into the video, so please ask me because I'm sure I already have thoughts about it. My next video on this topic will actually focus on one of the bigger things that I skipped over, which is shots taken of cutscenes. So if you like this introduction, let me know what other parts I should talk about, and if you're a video game photographer or a real world photographer, put your information below so people can check you out, and I would really appreciate it if you guys check me out on Instagram. I'm at Invisiblekatana across the board. You guys can go there, you can look at my real world photography or my video game photography. All of these pictures that you have been seeing are all of mine, so that would give you kind of a clue as to what I do both real world as well as in-game photography. So if you only do video game photography and maybe you don't even have a camera, you just use the video game, I would love to know your thoughts on this concept. If you only do real world photography and you've never even thought of video game photography, I want to know what you guys think, because I think this is a really serious subject matter. As someone who loves both photography and video games, I think it's important, and that's why I wanted to make this video, and that's why I plan on making a few more videos about it going forward. But I really do hope you guys enjoyed this introduction to the subject, or just my thoughts on the subject. If you are already very familiar with it and you have your own, I just hope you guys enjoyed this video as a whole. But the most important thing about this is to talk about it, so please put your comments down in the comment section below, and of course, thanks for watching.